Okay. So let's just look at this post here that you wrote. So before I go in and read it, can you just tell me what is the one thing that you want to say with this post? Because the biggest mistake, right, that a lot of people make, you not so much, but it happens, is you try to fit in a lot of knowledge into a post.
Yeah.
So like what's just the one thing?
So I guess I don't think about it as a one thing. I guess what I'm trying to do is, I guess the one thing is a framework or a playbook almost, which by definition is multiple things. And I guess where it's coming from is I've been seeing a lot of these posts by Adam Robinson, Galaga, some of these other people who, like, they're very successful posts, kind of have these deeper listicles, I guess I would say, where they list 5 or 10 things, and like each one has like the number, but then there's like a short, like, 2 sentence, 2 or 3 lines about each item. So I was kind of following that model, which, to be honest, shares more than one thing in a post, and I think maybe that's the reason why people like it. But it doesn't go too deep into any of those things. It's just this framework of like all these things that together make a really
Okay.
strong point.
So that's the one thing, right? The one thing that you're trying to do is you're trying to give people the playbook to
Yeah.
to doing personal branding,
Yeah.
right?
And it's like, here's what we're doing, and we're just showing you under the hood.
Okay. So this here, it's a good hook. I would I'd try to get a little bit bolder with this. And I understand like you're trying to keep it positive, like we are, growing. But like a little making this a little bit bolder is like here's how we're going to. It's kind of like be Babe Ruth pointing. I'm gonna hit the ball there, right? That's kind of like what you want to do. That's what personal brands do, right? Like they make these bold claims. Um, I don't necessarily always like to predict the future or whatever, but
Yeah.
there's also like a kind of understanding in this. It's like you know, it's just, but that it's catchy, right?
I
Here's
guess
how
to
we're
me that using "here's how we are" versus "here's how we're going to." Going to means like it's almost like I'm hoping we're going to do this. Like, we're going to do this thing, but we're not doing it yet. Versus "here's how we are doing this thing right now." Like, we are growing to $1 million. That's kind of the way that I wanted to write it. I mean,
well.
I'll
I mean,
defer to what you think.
this says it too. This says the same exact
Okay.
thing. It's just the word choice is punchier. Here's
Okay.
how we're going to grow Genius Scouts to 1 million revenue in 2025.
Okay.
Like, okay, that sounds like this. It sounds like somebody I should be listening to,
Or
right?
would it be, or maybe I can imply that there's going to be a framework or a playbook in this post. Here's the playbook or the framework we're using or we're going to use to grow Genius Scouts.
Here's the playbook. There we go. We're going to use to grow Genius Scouts to 1 million in revenue in
Mhm.
2025. Okay, so and then you say first, here's what we're not doing. Now, this is a common mistake that a lot of people make because there's like this advice out there that's write how you speak, and some people say that okay, well, write how you speak naturally. In which case, you wouldn't not talk like this because this is speech writing, right? This sounds very good in a speech. Here's the playbook we're going to use to grow Genius Scouts to 1 million in revenue in 2021. But first, here's what we're not doing. We're not focusing on growing the Genius Scouts brand. I get it. It sounds really good in a speech, but on social media where people are going like this, they read that first line, they read the second line. Now you just made it seem like work. You see what happened? You kind of like did this. It's this weird thing. Um, I once created this ad for You Promise, which is a a credit card that automatically takes your points and applies it to your kid's college fund, right? And so I created this ad, and it's like a father with a ballerina, and the voiceover is talking about how great kid's gonna be, and then all of a sudden it went like, and then like the ballerina is like sitting there looking, going, "What do you use your cash back for?" You know, and the ad bombed. Like it didn't do anything. It was a TV commercial. It didn't like lead any leads. It had no zero brand recall. All of it. I asked a friend of mine. Well, I asked Jonathan Rowley, who's like very into the science of advertising. I'm like, what happened? Why this? Right? And he says that interruption, like it sounds cool, but actually it does something to the brain. It's like you're in the flow, and then you've done what you said you're going to do. You've interrupted, and it's hard for people to get back into that. It's just like you could write like the best post in the world, but if you put it all in one big paragraph, people are not going to read it. It's just like because it looks like too much work. And this is what you've heard me talk about Eugene Schwartz a lot, where he has this great line about how writing in general is not writing words, it's building. You're like building things. And so you're building this post on a really like the top of your post is not the top of the building, it's really the bottom of the building, like this, and you're building the post on a weak foundation by saying, here's what we're not doing. It sounds cool, it sounds great, but you will lose readers. And especially when that is like the first, it also just sounds a little cliche. Like, so there's that, there's just all of that going to it. So this is like one of the things when you're writing, you want to start beginning to like check yourself on this. So you write it, like you get it out.
So I guess where I felt is like it was to me a little bit more interesting because it's a little counterintuitive. You would expect, okay, we're going to grow the brand, right? But that's not what we're doing. I mean, maybe just coming forward and saying, we're doubling down on growing our personal brands. Okay, well, you're a personal branding agency, so that seems maybe
Right.
that also seems too obvious.
So part of it is like that could be brought up into the hook, or we just try to find another way of saying it, right? So we could say like, here's the playbook we're going to use to grow Genius Scouts to 1 million. Here's the counterintuitive playbook we're going to use to grow Genius Scouts to 1 million, to grow 1 million, in revenue by 2025, right? And then what you could do is you could be like, you could just include this in instead of saying first here's not what we're doing, you could just actually literally, let's just try it. Let's just see what it looks like. First, we're not focusing on growing the Genius Scouts brand at all. Now writing this gives me another idea, right? Where you can just play with this a little bit. Let's just play with this hook. And we could say, so I know it seems like we're spending a lot of time on a hook, but the thing is that like David Ogilvy said that 90% of your time writing an ad, this is when print ads were big, should be on the headline because that's the first thing people see. And so if you're not spending the majority of the time on your hook and finessing your hook, then you're making a big mistake. Now here, you wrote the post already. So you definitely shouldn't obsess over the hook when you first write the post. Just write the post. The the editing of the hook should come afterwards. And you'll see what happens is sometimes you will change the hook, and it'll change the rest of the post too for the better and whatnot. So okay, so here's the playbook we're going to use. So here's the book. Like first, we're not focusing on growing. Here's the playbook we're going to use to grow Genius Scouts to 1 million in revenue. Without growing the Genius Scouts brand. That's a little bit of a funky sentence, but
I mean, we will end up growing the Genius
What?
Scout brand indirectly. Or am I being too literal there?
What'd you say?
I say we will end up growing the Genius Scouts brand
So
indirectly.
then why do so if what so then why say
Because
this?
I said we're not focusing on it. I mean, again, maybe I'm being too literal.
That's okay. Sounds better. Now that sounds like a little bit more provocative, if you ask me. You could even break this up and then just do, and then let's just get right to it.
Yep.
First, you see what happened?
Yep.
Now this is becoming this is becoming something that somebody will read now because it's flowing better. Without focusing on the Genius Scout brand, first Justin Oberman and I. Do we want to say are or will? Like,
If we're
because
saying at the beginning we're going to, then we will, because it's everything's in future tense now.
and I will
You just say we'll double down.
be doubling down on growing's implied our personal brands. The style, the
Right.
style is like what? This Aga guy, right? The thing about that guy's style and is if you really start paying attention to it, which I have, it's the style of a non-native English speaker. So you have to be a little bit careful because the logic of his argument is written in like you have to understand when people speak another language, when you speak Spanish, like the Spanish words are reversed, right? And words being reversed actually changes the way that you think about words and objects and stuff like that. Like when a Spanish people are talking, they actually, if you ask a Spanish person what gender a guitar is, they'll tell you it's female, it's male, it's that like because of their words and stuff. Whereas in English, we don't have those. So the way you speak does change the way that you think.
Mhm.
It also changes the way that you think logically. That you can, as a non-native English speaker, if you can master speaking English natively, but then use your non-native English, you can create like a very unique style. But that's just one thing to point out about it is like the layout of his posts like follows a different line of reasoning that's more associated with non-English speaking, non-native English speakers. But that's besides the point. Because like this line is like almost like a very kind of other cultural thing to like kind of like repeat, like to bring it in again, to bring you back into the story, right?
Mhm.
But we don't need to say this here. First, Justin and I will be doubling down on our personal brands. Second, and this is part of the first, be a little bit more dramatic here. I myself am going to become a client of Genius Scouts.
No, the way it was before, where I kind of had a list of multiple things that we're doing within this playbook, becoming a client myself was the first kind of numbered piece in this kind of listicle playbook.
Yeah, but this is nice. It's like it bounces you.
I guess I'm just thinking about it as we continue to move down and we get to the other steps. Do those no longer become a list because
Yeah, remember that I speed read, so I've already gone down. I've already seen what's coming.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to do is, and look, people have different.
I'm just questioning the numbering that this becomes second then.
Well, that's easy to fix. The point is people have different editing styles. This is how I like to do it. I like to just sort of jump in and then I get down here and be like, oh wait, okay, but you realize that more when you go this way rather than when you read it all first and then So that's why I just asked, like, what's the main purpose, right?
Sure.
So Justin is already a top 1% thought leader. Heck, he's even part of LinkedIn's Precision Brand Influencer program. But if I'm being honest, I haven't been creating consistent high value content lately. Why? Well, now this is me, so maybe this is not you. But you want to be playful? You could say, but if I'm being honest with myself, right?
Okay.
So you don't need to say this because it's already implied because it's in the why. See, all this now got put into that why. It's the magic of words and syntaxed.
This video actually that we're recording now of this edit might become the visual to go in the post.
That's fine. So Justin has agreed to coach me just like he coaches our clients.
Do we want to say what kind of coaching?
His only stipulation was that we record it and make it public so that people could see what it's like to work with us. Well, it's much more impactful than that sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So expect to see as you can see. So here's something funny we could do. We could have this post and then underneath this post. So underneath this post, you wanted to have and I recommended to have a carousel, but maybe an edited version of this video actually goes under this post. Because here you could say, and as you can see by the video below, this post is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I mean, it could turn into two different posts. That totally makes sense, and I think
we can get like very meta with it.
But I also have the carousel started here.
But now we can turn that carousel into another post.
Right.
And now, see, now from one post, now we have two. Right? So, and as you can see by the video below, this post is a perfect example of that. No, I'm not rewriting perfectly yet. Like I don't like ending the sentence that. So let's see. First, so now because we're doing this, we got to do first. Secondly, thirdly, that's right.
I don't know if people know what that means.
That's okay. I knew you were going to say that, and I knew what I was going to say to that. That's okay. You're explaining a lot in this post, but one thing that this post is missing is a little mystery, right? Some people will understand that, some people won't, but it's intriguing. What do you mean by that? Maybe they'll even write it in the comments. What do you mean by doing genius scouting? Interested to see what genius scouting is. You can answer those in the comments. Mystery creates engagement.
Mm-hmm.
People don't always like to know everything.
I like it.
Now, do we want to make this like fourth?
I think we have. So that repurposing content, I don't know. I think that's just like a side benefit.
Let's just see.
I maybe call it third and a half.
Let's just see. Hold on a second.
And do people really say fifthly, fourthly?
Okay, so watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do something here, and instead of me, I'm going to do it. Instead of me explaining what I'm going to do, I want you to watch me do it, and then I want you to try to explain what I did. Okay?
Yeah.
So, fifthly, we will be appearing more as podcast guests. Done.
So it looks like you put the general why before the how.
Watch. Let's go back to what it was before. That's what you wrote. This is the edited version. So, fifthly, we'll be appearing as podcast guests. So that line leaves you with, okay. You jump into, we're planning an aggressive outreach campaign to get interviewed on as many relevant podcasts as possible. Okay. Instead, I say, jump right into, being a podcast guest is an incredible way to borrow other people's audiences and credibility. That's why. So I've answered that.
That's what I said. The why. You move the why to the top.
Yeah, the why on the top. Why, how,
And the
what.
next is like the how or the mechanism to how we do it.
Why, how, what. Exactly.
So why, how, what? I see the why. Seems like the how.
Why? Being a podcast is an incredible way to borrow.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about, it's not the Simon Sinek why, how, what. It's the old copywriting.
Okay.
Being a podcast guest is an incredible way to borrow other people's audiences and credibility. How? How is it? Because we have a message about personal branding that we want that the world needs to hear. So what are we going to do? So we're planning an aggressive outreach campaign to get interviewed on as many relevant podcasts as possible to spread our message and teach people. We don't even need this last sentence.
Do you think it's overkill to maybe say, heck, something like, heck, we were just on, and then like mention and tag the person whose podcast we were on yesterday? Because you just did one yesterday. And just tag him and get a bit more engagement. As just an example. Or unnecessary, just there's already too much in this post. It didn't start yesterday. We've been in others.
Um,
Because like just yesterday we were on the Lita B post podcast with Lee Moskowitz.
you'll fill that in. I like that.
And then tag him.
Yeah.
And then I'll share the post with him also.
Yep. Okay, so you're right. So let's do this bonus.
So that, I think that becomes fourth.
Fourthly, but most importantly, I like this for you. Not for me, but for you. But most importantly, fifth, we're going to pay for Brandon Barnes's. Yeah. You heard that right. We are incorporating paid advertising into our personal branding strategy. We're investing $1,000 per month in LinkedIn Thought Leader ads to
Would you
boost
put
our best content.
like we did in the last section, would you add a why? Because we don't want to rely on organic reach, because we want to make sure our content gets seen by the most important people. So I think you have a call in 8 minutes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Just like regular brands need paid advertising as part of their strategy, so do personal brands. It's easy to forget this, but
I don't love saying that because I'm not sure how we could define and they've been phenomenal. I mean, we've reached a lot of people. It's it's hard to measure anything back or anything directly back yet.
yeah, so it's phenomenal. If people ask, they ask.
Okay. I mean, I've had people they asked on the podcast yesterday, and
Good.
I didn't have a measurable outcome, but I still believe in it strongly.
So how about this? Oh, we got to move this up.
And if it's becoming too much, we can take some of it out. Like I feel like there's a lot of stuff there. Hold on a second, just my daughter's calling. Hi. Are you trying to combine the PR with the outreach part?
Yeah, I mean that's.
They're pretty different.
What do you mean they were connected?
I think there was a line in between them.
There was no line in between them.
1 second. I'm just going back to where it was over here.
Cold outreach.
Oh, it could be that just the way it got formatted here, it didn't come out. But we're doing PR, and that was just like a one-liner over here. And then thanks to all this brand awareness, we're going to focus on warm outreach. And that was like a whole nother item. It just, the formatting got messed up in here. So I would move this line here that I highlighted down together with this line you just highlighted. Those two go together.
Okay. There you go. That's a better post. Shorter too.
Yeah, should we, what's with this line over here? It doesn't make sense where it is.
What?
This line here about cold outreach sucks. That's not part of PR.
It very much is part of PR, but if you want to get rid of that.
It seems kind of orphaned over there.
So it makes it so that, look.
I understand
somebody,
the relevance. I guess it's just, it's not the point that we were making.
Up to you. You can take it out. It's your post.
I mean, I like the line. I just don't know if it makes sense there. Would you leave all these capitalized like this, or you just were leaving it there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you. It's much better now. I'll clean up a little bit. I'll show it to you again. Bye bye.